Don't Want to Have to Marry You. Great piece of work there. One of the legendary songs from Jim Ed Brown and Helen Cornelius. Jim Ed Brown live in the studio with me. I'm Mark Dassler here on the morning show at KXRB. Jim Ed, great to have you in here.
Thank you. That song won us the CMA Duo of the Year award in 1977.
Wow.
Wasn't that great?
That was great. It was great to hear that song. We're going to hear that song, and Helen will be with you Saturday night on stage in Parker.
This will be a first.
Gym.
This will be a first time for her up here.
All right.
Now I invited her last year to come along too, but she said I don't hunt, and I said, well, you can do you can do cartwheels.
You can help chase the birds out.
Well, but anyway, she's up here and you know what? She's going to come into her first snow also, but
Okay.
so it'll be a while. But anyway, we're looking forward to the show Saturday night.
We are not only talking in the microphones here, but we're also shooting some video. Matter of fact, Jerry Damon is shooting some video right now, and the reason we're doing this, we're going to put it for you folks out there listening on the radio and online at kxrb.com. We're going to put it on our website a little bit later. As soon as we get off the air at 10 o'clock, we will upload the video that we're shooting. So what we're doing right now here in the studio, we're capturing it on video, and we'll give you a chance, folks, to see this.
See if they were all up here now, they could get into the movie with us.
All right. Sorry about the color of both of our hair, but nothing we can do about that. All right.
Well, that's just experience, coming out.
Jim Ed, we're glad to. We're honored to have you here at the studio. We're honored, of course, to have you performing in the area again.
Can I say another thing right here before you get into something?
Anything you want to say?
Y'all carry my radio show.
That's
Country
where I was
Music
going.
Race Radio.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody for listening into that. I have a lot of fun with that show. I get to tell some good stories. Now, there's some stories, as we said earlier, we don't tell, but most of them we can, and it gets pretty good every once in a while. I wanted to get Maxine involved, but I was afraid to because I don't have a 2-minute delay,
Right.
And it would have to be one if she was on with me.
Country Music Greats, hosted by Jim Ed Brown. We feature that here on KXRB 2 times a week, Saturday nights at 10 and Sunday afternoons at 4. How long have you been doing that show?
Almost going on 6 years.
Okay. You know the country music legends. That makes it easy and fun for you to do the show.
And I know a lot about them.
Okay. We listen to that.
I've never considered myself a star or anything like that. I've always been one of the people that just sat back and watched because I love my peers. I love their music and I love them. But I've through the years I've heard a lot of stories and I've been around a lot of stories. One of my favorite stories is Roger Miller's story.
Tell us that story.
Roger Miller, way back yonder, he was, he and some of the boys, they like these little, what we call Los Angeles turnarounds, yellow pills or whatever you want to call them. And they used to take those things and they'd stay up, for 24 hours and then they'd take another pill and stay up another 48, But they had fun all the time, and he and a steel guitar player named Jimmy Day was going through one of the hotels there in Nashville one time, and they had these minor birds. And these minor birds were in a cage. Well, they talked. They would talk to you. You go up there and, you talk to them. They say hello and all these things.
Taking pills and talking to birds.
Yeah. Well, they decided to slip these minor birds some of those pills. And they put them in their little trays, and these minor birds got a hold of them. Well, they couldn't stop them from talking. They started talking, and they covered them up, with blankets, and but they could. And the manager got so mad, he said, "Kill them."
There has to be a country song that come from that somehow, some way.
Well, I don't know, but they finally put them way back in the back room, where nobody could see them, but they hollered for the longest.
Your life in Nashville, spent a lot of time at the Grand Ole Opry. We talked about that a little while ago. You spent a lot of time there at Music City.
I've enjoyed Nashville because I did a television show called The Country Place, and then I did one called Nashville on the Road with Jerry Clower.
Was that about 75 to 81, somewhere in there?
Right. The Country Place now was before that. The Country Place was in the late 60s, 68 and 69. I did 102 of those, and over a period of a couple of 3 years there. And then we did Nashville on the Road with Jerry and Helen and Wendy Holcomb. And then after that, I did a show called You Could Be a Star. And you know what, Mark, I felt like that show should have been going on forever and ever. And I told them so. And I said, you know, whenever they decided to let it go, they said, well, that we make more money off of racing. And I said, yeah, but this could go, you know. But anyway, my argument wasn't fruitful. So anyway, but then they let that go. But look at all the shows today.
Oh,
for all the kids that are out there, and
we used to have one channel. Now there's 100 of them.
Every one of
hundreds.
these young kids, they need to step up, and there's some great talent out there yet to come. So anyway, I've always said that the greatest talent is yet to come. But whatever you look at Taylor Swift and Elvis Presley and some of them, you wonder if there's anybody any bigger. But then I did a show with my wife called Going Our Way, and we got to come up into this country and all around and traveled around.
All right.
It was a motorhome type show.
When you're traveling, touring, like today, is it bus, is it airplane, or a combination of?
Combination of.
Okay.
I love to just get in my car and take off if it's not too far, you know.
You told me a
But
story
I love
last
my
night.
bus too.
You told me a story last night when we were having a great dinner together about your great friend little Jimmy Dickens made you take your bus to where was it, Dallas, and
Yeah.
you burned up a bunch of diesel fuel.
Well, I said, Jimmy, I'm going to Fort Worth. It is my own fault, you know. I said, Jimmy, I'm going to Fort Worth to do a show. You want to go with me? He said, yeah. He said, I'll go if you'll take your bus. I said, oh gosh, I don't know that I want to do that because I can fly down there for $400, $500. To take my bus, that's two tankfuls of gas at $500 a piece. And I, you know, just for him I did. But you know what? I would do it 50 times again.
Okay, great.
But I love little Jimmy Dickens. We have been fishing. We went.
Boy, they love him at the Opry, don't they?
Oh, they do. You know, he can tell the same story, but it's his timing.
Yeah.
He is just
And the way his
unbelievable.
voice kind of shakes a little bit when he's telling the story about the hearing aid and putting it in the wrong part of his body, and he tells that story every week, and the crowd just cracks up. And I do too.
There's other things too about that little pill and the stiff neck.
Hey, we could tell stories, and folks, let me take you back in time. Let me pick a day of the year that we tend to remember. There's a couple days, Christmas Day, we tend to remember that day through the years. We remember the 4th of July. Let me take you back. Can you possibly remember a 4th of July back in time? The year was 1959. Oh, it was a great world. The cars had the big tail fins. The ladies had the big hairdos. Jim, Ed, you and Maxine and Bonnie were in a studio on the 4th of July in 1959.
We were in Studio B. We had come to Nashville. Chet Atkins. We started out in '54 recording and everything. And looking back to see was our first song. We wrote that and all. Then Here Today and Gone Tomorrow. And I Take the Chance were good songs for us. But I went into the service, and for 2 years we didn't have anything. And the girls got married and they started their families. Well, in 1959, Chet called and said, we think you kids need to come back and do another session. And so we said, okay. And on the way up, we decided that this was going to be our last session. This was going to be it for us. We were going to retire. We had retired one other time, you know, and then Chet and Jim Reeves had talked us into coming back and got us a contract with RCA. But so Chet said, is there anything in particular that you want to record or want to sing? And we said, yeah, there's one song. Bonnie and I had sang this song in high school. It was called Little Jimmy Brown in the high school choir. Well, Maxine had not done it. She had graduated before we did. But we told Chet that that's what we would like to do, and he said, okay. We didn't know at the time that Chet Atkins had the same song in mind for us. You know, and he never said a word about it until 20 years later. Anyway, we went in the studio and we recorded it, and we told Chet we were going to retire. That was it. That was our swan song. And after the session, he said, you know, you kids think that you're going to retire, but he said, I think you've just recorded the biggest song that you've ever recorded. And it turned out to be the biggest song that's ever been recorded in Studio B, and one of the biggest songs that's ever been recorded in country music.
Can I have permission to play that song right now?
It's called, in French, they call it Les Trois Cloches. We called it the story of Little Jimmy Brown or the Three Bells.
July 4th, 1959. The mics came on and it sounded just like this.